So here we go. Well, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, the subject is this conference is all about data. And I think in this session we would like to explore a little bit what the relation is of data for MaaS, but also the way around. What kind of data can we get from MaaS? So I think in the previous explanations we explored what MaaS is, and even though there are still some different kind of interpretations of MaaS, I think we all agree that mobility as a service, flexibility to the travelers concerning how they would like to travel and to get to their destination. And typically this is starting with an information and planning, so people are giving in where they want to go to, how they would like to travel, what are their preferences, when do they would like to start, and so on. And based on this, people can select their journey. And obviously, they would not just like to end there, but also to make sure that they get all of the tools and assets in order to execute this journey. So that in the form of a booking and ticketing, but also the payment parts, that everything is there when they are on the roads, that they don't have to do anything else, but that can be done through this one app. Obviously, not everything is going to plan always, so this app should also be, or the concept should also ensure that people have always all of the needed information, even if that means information concerning disruptions, incidents, traffic jams, whatever that is needed in order to either make some alternative choices, or if you would like to continue or to take some alternatives. So I think this is the mobility as a service part. And before we dive into the MaaS data, is that we have been in the luxury situation to have already more than 80 apps in Play Store and Google Store, where we could learn from what is important for persons. Here are some examples, even smaller states like Luxembourg and Andorra. And in these city-states, it is still impressive to see how they even could include all of the transportation modes. Even in Luxembourg, public transportation is for free, but people still appreciate to have the full view about all the options that they have. So it's a combination of public transport, but also individual car, how they can combine it. And the city of Luxembourg also is very pleased because they have a way how to influence people in their travel behavior and how they, as an authority, can make sure that people are moving towards achieving the strategic goals of the city. Another nice example in the States is from Silicon Valley, from San Francisco with BART, where we also integrated already a couple of years ago everything which is available in that region in Silicon Valley. And if we go a little bit more to stay in Europe, I think one of the most prominent apps in travel and mobility is still Reiseplanen in Denmark, which is the #1 mobility app used, simply because it includes all of the transportation modes available in Denmark. Yeah. That is not just Danish Railway, it's not just the public transportation in Copenhagen, no, everything that is private and public transportation is included, even demand responsive transport, and obviously it goes as far as offering some ticketing and some transactions. So that is still one of the benchmarks in Europe and even globally. Even in Dubai, with Road and Transport Authority, the Sohail app is already in place and launched since 5 years now. Still very up to date and one of the best we have seen. Offering all kind of options, and even though it's coming from Road and Transport Authority as the operator and the authority, it still realizes the vision of implementing all transportation mode in Dubai, so that also includes now all of the private operators, and it is still the unique app for traveling in Dubai. Even if you are a corporate, if you're a business traveler, if you're a tourist, a citizen, it really doesn't matter. So what have we learned so far about these apps and the importance of the data? And it has been said in previous presentations as well that the transport authorities, public and private, can provide data. That's clear. That is also sometimes what they have to do or what they can do. But before we can use it into the MaaS platform or in the app, it needs to be sure that people are accepting this. And this is only possible that the data quality is really good. It is essential that people believe and see that the data that they get in the app is matching with reality. If people don't see this, and if they see that the bus is 10 minutes later than in their app, or the way around, even worse, that they don't see the delay, they will not use it anymore. They will put it aside, and that is the worst thing that can happen. So the trust of the app is linked with the data quality, which is not always given. And that's the reason why we have some business tools that that can increase the level of data quality which is provided by the individual sources. And the data business tools allow to combine different set of data sources, aggregate them, improve them, fill some missing holes and data, make sure that you have the most accurate data. And only if you are sure that you get the best out of it, then you can provide this as a source for the MaaS platform on the app. And this is obviously necessary for timetable, definitely for real time, but also for disruptions. These business tools can be part of the MaaS platform, but it also could be as an individual modules offered prior to the entering into the MaaS platform. And the beauty of this, and referring to Timo Hoffmann's part, it could be used as the input for open data and open data platforms or for national access points. The output can be standardized tools like Siri, NetX, GTFS Realtimes. You have heard the names just before. So it's really kind of a win-win that you can have these data for yourself, but you also, if you would like to, can publish this and make available to the broader audience. So data quality is of essence, it's essential, but the way around is how can we, what kind of data and how can we use the data coming out of the Mobility as a Service platform or the apps. And here we have two views and two main stakeholders. Both can benefit from that data. The first stakeholder is the operator. And here it's obvious that when he better understands how people are behaving, how people are traveling, that he also can organize himself in his operations to cope with the demand. And the data can, for instance, contribute by giving him some insights on the demand, and even not in real time, but also demand predictions. It also could help him if he's evaluating a new bus line to verify, okay, where would the bus stops best be put? Or if he is thinking of replacing a fixed bus line by a demand responsive transport, to say, okay, how much would be the demand? Where are the people coming from? What is the zone that I need to size this in? So a lot of things that can be helping him in optimizing his services, optimizing not just in terms of services, but also in getting his costs more efficiently according to the services he's bringing. Same counts for the passenger. He also can have a lot of benefits out of this data, but of course in another form. And in this case, the passenger can benefit from the data in the form of additional services. And maybe let's give an example. And before I do so, it's just an observation that the vast majority of the apps, or not to say all of them, are a reactive service. You can ask to go from A to B, and you need to enter what is your origin, what is your destination, how do you would like to travel, when do you would like to travel, what would you like to avoid, do you have driving license, and so on and so on. You all can enter this in the app. And then based on this request and your preferences and all the rest, the app will provide you with the best options and you can go. But it would be even more interesting that the app would count on verifying and verifying on data that you have gathered in the past, where he assessed your travel behavior, and then based on this one, that he proactively and individually recommend you how to best travel. That he sees, oh, Geert, I see that you're now in this situation. Typically, this is what you do. Shall already book a car sharing for you to bring you home, which is there. These kind of things are incredibly making life of the passengers more convenient, and it helps them also to rely more on the services which can be provided as part of this service. So how would that look like? The app can provide, and the smartphone can provide some data in the form of a request, and based on the requests, we can come up with some statistics extrapolation and machine learning about making some predictions about the demand, which is very interesting for operators, but also, of course, for the persons, because you can already indicate the occupancy in the future. If we use this trip search information and combine this with some actual travel information, the tracking part, then it is, of course, even a higher degree of intelligence that we add. And then we can start working on analyzing the movements and assess the movements of those persons. Where is he staying? What are the places he's visiting? What are the trips he's making? And more important, what are the habits? What is his travel behavior in certain circumstances, depending on the weather, depending on the day, depending on the time of the day, whatever, and that can be assessed. And this could be the basis for making, like I just explained, the personalization, especially also because the assessment of the habits and the travel behavior is also possible on the transportation mode. So we are able, in a very high accuracy, tell if people are taking the bike, if they're taking a scooter, if it's on a bus, a tram, or whatever. And that is, I think, quite unique. If we know how people are traveling and where they're traveling, and we also can combine this with to seeing where people are boarding and alighting, and we can combine this with the tariff schemes, we can bring it to the next level of automated ticketing. And we call it XIXO, which is a combination of the flavors check-in, check-out, check-in, be out, be in, be out. It doesn't matter. It's about how can people avoid entering to buy a ticket, but instead just travel and then afterwards pay and get a ticket and the payment what they have traveled. So it's post-payment, and it's only taking into account what they actually traveled. So even if you start the morning just with going to the office and back, but in the evening you decide to go to a restaurant, if COVID opens, allows this, of course, and then afterwards you go with a friend and so on, and then you go back home. You could not know this in the morning, but the ticketing scheme allows this. Then at the end of the day, you can see what you have traveled, and you can be offered the best price. And this is, for instance, what we have done in Osnabrück in Germany, which is a nice example of this solution. And if we would use a unique tariff, then we also can go with the revenue allocation, again, because we know exactly what you have been using when, and also accordingly which operator it was, so that we can allocate which revenue would go to which operators. And of course, this can be looped back to the initial app and the traveler. So I think this is a very intelligent way of using that data. It's not about research and development. No, we already have implemented this a couple of times. This is a nice example in Zurich, where we have the Siemens Mobility, and where, based on machine learning, we exactly did what I just presented. It's about assessing the movement analytics based on the sensors of the smartphone and the apps. And of course, there are these kind of concerns that I would like to explain a little bit better how we coped with it. The first one is about battery consumptions. And everybody is very sensitive about battery drainage. Nobody would accept that the batteries are dying within 2 hours after usage. And that's the reason why we came up with a very intelligent way and algorithms and methods to cope with this. And so the apps that we now have are only a very low battery consumption, so that it's really acceptable. And we have tested this with the people in many cities, that it's fully accepted and people don't even notice this. A second one is the GDPR compliance. Susanna earlier on mentioned this as an important one. Yes, obviously, we also respect this, because it's not something that we can do. We have to do this, and we do this. And this is simply possible because we keep the data on the phone, and only if it goes in the backend, then it's anonymized. But the majority of the time, because if it's individual, the data and the algorithm and all the parts and the intellectual parts are in the phone. And I think this guarantees the respect in the GDPR. If we take a step back to the operator, what can he get out of the data? We have seen a lot of examples already today, but here are some others in terms of COVID, where it can be very interesting and useful, beneficial for the operator, is simply to understand what is the current usage of the transportation modes before and after. You can do the assessments. You also could see what is the occupancy in real time of stations, of bus stops, even of vehicles. And even if you don't want it in real time, you also can do some predictions, which allows you again to offer in your app and recommendations. People say, look, if you go for this one, it will be fully occupied. If you take the next one, it will be only half full. Or if you even go off peak, and it will be in 2 buses from now. And if you have the time, just wait, because then the bus will almost be completely empty. This might be a better choice for you if you have the time. And again, this is all based on the data that we gather and analyze from the app and the MaaS platform. So out of this, and this is my last slide, is that we have seen that the app can provide a lot of valuable data to the operator, but wouldn't it be even more important not just to talk to a tool and have data from a tool, which is the app and the smartphone, but really understand what the person behind this wants, what the passenger wants. So not the tool, but the person. And that is probably even more important, because if you can have and build this bridge between the operator and the person, then you're not only getting the data, but also you can build this relationship with him. You can understand why he's traveling, or what he's traveling, how he's traveling. You can also get some feedback on his why he is not using the bus. You can get some ratings if the service was good. You also can create some loyalty schemes. You can send him personalized messages based on his geolocation or on his customer segment, if he's elderly person or a student, and so on. In other terms, you can really strengthen this relationship with some tools that we have, and to build this bridge between the passenger and the operator. And maybe the part that is still missing, but I'm very confident that will come next, is that we only, besides to know where he is traveling from and where, when, and how, that we also could maybe get the why he's traveling out of this relationship. And I think with this, Brett, I would like to return to you, and I hope that I could bring the message across of the value of the data for mobility as a service, but even more important, how the data from the mobility as a service can be beneficial for the operator and the passenger.
Thank you, Geert. Great presentation. We've got about